Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by work or what we're doing as a team? I know I have. When I published a recent detangler, activator had a response, and she sent me the response back, and in that she had a question, and she had a question of why did I stop daily detanglers back when I stopped. So if you're not aware of that episode, if you're not aware of that question, basically what had happened was I'd shared that I've been on a journey and I've produced 75 or more daily detanglers. And what had happened was there was a period of time when I stopped. And she asked, why did I stop? Because I picked them back up eventually, but there was a period of I'm not doing these. And why did I do that? So I'm going to share how I reacted, how I responded, and what I did to untangle myself. So this was me back a few months ago, and I was feeling dejected and you know stuck inside my own head. I felt like I was a bit in a box. I was boxed in. I was in a coming off of a holiday season, and I had a lot of stuff going on. There was some personal things, etc. But in the context of the daily detanglers, I was, not sure what to do. And the reason for that was I felt disconnected from what was happening, and I didn't see how what I was doing related to the bigger picture. I wasn't sure what was happening on a daily basis and how to tie detanglers to it. And there was so many things that were prioritizing my time, and it was just a time crunch, and I would do things and not get feedback. I actually ran an analytics report and showed and I saw that nobody was actually opening these things. So I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm putting these out, nobody cares. What am I doing? Not sure what to do next. Sometimes I would get direction from Catalyst, and I was just like, man, this is I don't know. I don't have a pot of soup. I don't. This is all before Stone Soup, but I didn't know what I was doing with ingredients. I didn't know if I had a pot of soup. I just didn't know what I was doing with the tanglers, and I basically rationalized that out of as I'm out of topics. So because of all that, looking at it now, it's pretty funny, but it was, yeah, I'm out of topics. I don't know how I came to that conclusion. Oh, man. So I'm out of topics. Okay, so I'm out of topics. And this is, and I'm like, I just stopped doing them. I just went cold turkey. Right. And I don't know if it was like, let me see if anybody notices or what. Funny, right? So but in my head, like I was tangled in my head, like I literally have unlimited topics. Like I knew that, but I'm going to rationalize all this as I ran out of topics, but I literally have unlimited. And this has been a challenge that I've had is there's so much to do and there's so much what's possible. Like it's wide open, and that's a bit daunting. So I got tangled up in that. And then, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this idea of what to do, and I have anxiety over that. I know I have unlimited topics, but I don't feel like I can do it, and I'm overwhelmed. And it's not good to be overwhelmed on a high performing team. All this stuff starts running through my head, and those emotions impacted my ability to create. And so the logic in my head was I have unlimited topics, but my emotions were in my gut, and I would have anxiety. I would just look at my computer and I locked up, I froze. And so it's like, oh, I'm out of topics. But what that means is I got seriously tangled. I got all knotted up. And so how does that happen, and what happens? And why did that happen in the first place? And then, what's the result of staying there? I think that's the biggest takeaway from this story is not only wasn't I aware that this was happening, and I can look back on it now and joke about it, but I also didn't realize that the long-term impact of not addressing that, right? It slowed down a lot of things for the team, and I would be further ahead on my own journey if I had figured out how to push through and figure out how to do that. So instead, I felt, overwhelmed with everything, starting my own business, running out of money, uh, you know, just all kinds of stuff. And then wondering about, where we're all going, what we're all doing. So there's some big things happening. But in the context of detanglers, you know, feeling overwhelmed on what should I produce right now and how is it going to help the team? So it's almost like in the face of unlimited choice, how do I figure out what to do and what to prioritize, so to speak? So I equate that to the challenge is it's a VUCA challenge, right? This is the new reality. This is the new normal. And this is COVID time. COVID was happening, right? I mean, talk about a VUCA environment. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure you can relate to that. But, there was a lot of volatility and a lot of speed. We were picking up pace. We were getting new clients. We were having to tackle things more quickly. I was trying to keep up with a daily detangler. There was a lot of uncertainty about what I wanted to do, where I was going, where this whole thing was going with detanglers, what to do with detanglers, right? There was a lot of complexity. We're tackling ecosystem challenges, Back then, I didn't necessarily see how a daily detangler could help us tackle an ecosystem challenge. It seems so micro, right? Like, what is this, just a bunch of batting practice, or what am I doing? And then from a topic perspective, there's so much that how do I get to 10-minute, 15-minute detanglers? And then ambiguity, like, what am I doing, and how does it relate, and how do I take a topic and frame it out even, and am I being clear, for example? And then how do I be clear in a unclear situation, right? These are all challenges that VUCA creates and impacting me at an individual level. So if I think back to why did I stop, right? I got VUCA'd and I stopped producing because I got overwhelmed, and my logic and my emotion were out of alignment, and my emotion created anxiety and frustration that locked me up. I got VUCA'd. So how would I untangle myself now about getting VUCA'd? Well, what is volatile? Well, I need to figure out in this new normal how to keep up with speed and frequency of change. It's not going to slow down. How do I embrace volatility? How do I make sure I'm aware of what happens when I am thinking about not having too enough time, or too much to do, or what I should be doing? That's not, those are not good feelings. I need to keep those in check. So how do I embrace the challenge and make sure I'm keeping my emotions in check? And then how do I make sure I'm aware of my own self-talk, where if it pops up, the tangle pops up in my head of, hey, I'm not sure I can do all this, what do I do about it? And one of the things that I've embraced in this is a personal accountability and a responsibility to figure out how to snap into volatility. So in that view, I have the ability to choose my response, as I've talked about in previous detanglers. So do I choose current tasks, or do I choose embracing the vision that we have? Do I get overwhelmed in the now, or do I take a moment and reflect, or maybe even meditate, take a minute and pause, and then, talk about and think about and communicate what our broader vision is as a team. And that broader vision is really energizing. So I can choose to embrace that, and that will help me, and has helped me overcome and harness volatility. So it's this idea of vision, and being aware of the vision, and understanding the vision, and reflecting on our vision as a team, and realizing that volatility is the new normal. Uncertainty, right? What are the challenges that I have there? It's like, how do I understand the timing of situations and what's happening? How do I keep these feelings of, I don't know what I need know, or I need to make sure I'm not inconsistent, or, hey, I'm not confident. How do I keep those feelings from welling up, and just recognize that we're on a high performing team and it's constantly changing. So those feelings aren't helpful, and they don't help me move forward. And then what do I do if I get tangled around? I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. You know, how do I embrace that? Again, harnessing uncertainty and leaning into this idea that the tangle can be tackled. And so if I'm not sure I'm doing this right, again, I have the ability to choose my response. I have this personal accountability, and I can choose to either focus on me or focus on the team, the we. And if I focus on me, what does that do? I get into the party in my head, and inside my own head is not good. I need to lean into and relate to the team and engage the team. And sometimes that means putting things out there for their response. And other times it just means listening, but connecting to the bigger picture, and connecting to the broader challenges, so that I don't get wrapped up around the axle of what's going on in my own head. And the more I engage with the team, the more certain things become. So the next one is complex. When I get VUCA'd by complexity, the challenge I have there is, seeing and relating to the bigger picture. How do I keep these feelings of this is too hard, or jumping to the answer, or declaring and shooting on people in order to simplify? How do I not do that? Because simple is hard. I have to recognize that we're tackling complex systems as we are trying to create something from nothing. And to harness complexity and lean into it means I gotta embrace it, and I have a responsibility. I can't say that's not my problem. I don't have the luxury to say I don't have an impact. I don't have the luxury to say my contribution doesn't matter to the bigger picture. When I'm on a team like this, everything matters. Every little thing can help. So I can't say it's not my problem, because that's one, it's not true. And then, I have the ability to choose my response. And that's the second thing, is I can make this choice. Do I jump to the answer, or do I explore and have empathy for what's happening? And this idea of having empathy of the complexity, and what does that mean? And yeah, there's a lot to that, and there's a lot to figure out. And you know what? It might never fully ever really be figured out. It's an ongoing problem. But we're tackling an ecosystem challenge in sales and marketing, and look how far we have come in clarifying the complexity. And so, yes, it's hard, but it is totally doable. How do I have empathy for that and choose that empathy over the easy path, right, of jumping to the answer? So that helps me harness complexity, is having empathy for it. Not to understand all the complexity. I'm not saying understand all the complexity. I'm saying empathize with it has helped me overcome and harness complexity. The last piece of the VUCA challenge is, and how that showed up, and in my challenge of creating detanglers was, how do I take what's happening and turn it into something positive? And I don't get a lot of direction. I'm not micromanaged. I can literally do anything. but that creates ambiguity. All that possibility creates ambiguity. How trippy is that? I can literally do whatever I want, but is it, how do I do that? And also, I have so many inputs. What do I do with that? And how do I make sure I don't get overcome by feelings of confusion or trying to figure out what to do, or even if my actions were helpful? I think what I learned to do was lean into this ambiguity and harness the ambiguity as a way to practice and rely on the team's input. So if I found myself tangled around, hey, I'm not seeing if I'm helpful, what could I do? I could have the ability to choose my response to that. And I can either assume I'm being helpful, or in my case, I assume I'm not being helpful, or I could simply ask, hey, how is that helpful, if at all? Or hey, did you get a chance to listen? And people are like, no, I didn't. Okay, that's cool. That's way better than saying, yeah, I listened to it and I didn't want to give you feedback because it was so crappy. Right? So if I assume everybody's listening to it and it's so crappy, that's stinking thinking, right? So assuming makes an ass out of you and me, right? So assuming's bad. And so why don't I just ask? And if it's an ambiguous thing, why don't I just ask? Why don't I just ask? So these things I didn't do when I got locked up on the detanglers and I started feeling overwhelmed. I didn't lean into the volatility. I didn't go back and embrace our vision as a team. I didn't lean into uncertainty when I was stuck on the detangler. I focused on me, not we. I didn't lean into the complexity when I stopped detanglers. I didn't focus on being empathetic to the role of everybody else on the team to understand the potential impact of putting detanglers out. And I didn't ask. I didn't ask about the detanglers, and I didn't engage with curiosity. And so those four things locked me up, and I certainly would do them now. And so that's the big reason why I stopped doing detanglers. And that's a healthy reflection, I think. And also hopefully it helps you. Activator asked me why I stopped, and the bottom line is I got overwhelmed. And simple is hard. And to become a pro, pro at simple is hard, I have to practice, and detanglers are helping me practice. I have to reflect. I have to make space for that reflection, and sometimes that means even thinking about headspace and meditation and reflecting on that. And this detangler is helping me do that. And then I have to stay optimistic. Embrace this VUCA as a way to create breakthrough, as a way to innovate. And I choose to be optimistic and remember that we're on a path and we're on a journey. And more importantly, we're figuring it out. We are making progress. This is working. We are doing it. And I choose to be optimistic in that. So that's the reason why I stopped. And now, this detangler is how I would have untangled myself. So that's the big lesson here is, from a learning by doing perspective, I didn't exactly know why I stopped. So activator asked me that, and so I visualized it, and I talked through at the time. I remember getting when I said, "Hey, Catalyst, I'm going to start the detanglers," and he challenged me on restarting the detanglers. Right, so he didn't challenge this particular output here. So maybe we can start with that. Is what challenge? How do you react to this, and what feedback do you have? And then, am I challenging myself to be clear and put this out there? And then, can I build something with it? And I think I have. So if I run this through from a learning by doing, perspective, I think the aha is, hey, why did I stop? Let me visualize what I stopped, why I stopped, and I got VUCA'd. I got overwhelmed. How would I visualize it? And how can I make people feel like I had that feeling? So I challenged myself to say, how do I make this relatable? What is this butterflies in my stomach and what's happening in my head? How do I challenge myself to make that relatable? And then can I build a detangler around why I stopped and put it out there so that I can get feedback and see how it relates? And I think that's the learning by doing here. Now that I've processed the learning by doing checklist, and how I view that. So that's how I would say I'm learning by doing today. And that relates to trusting the process and trusting the process to see what happens and embracing answering the question. Activator asked it, I'm answering it. And this is how I'm learning by doing. So I appreciate your time today. Sorry the detangler was a little bit late. I got a call at early in the morning during my detangler time, and been chipping away at this today. So I hope this helps you as we go into the weekend. I'll see you guys later. Take care.